service companies are absolutely doing Google Business Profile wrong, and in this episode, I'm going to show you why. Hello, friends. I'm Adam Loveridge. Welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm the owner and founder of Job Calls. We're a home services marketing agency specializing in heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and remodeling contractors. For more information about Job Calls, visit us online at www.jobcalls.com. Hello, friends. Adam Loveridge here with Job Calls, and welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. This last week, I had a conversation with a heating, air, and plumbing contractor here in my own backyard in Utah. And what I realized was very quickly that he had his Google Business Profile set up entirely wrong. It has spent, frankly, tens of thousands of dollars a year for the past several years trying to rank on Google, trying to get lead flow, trying to really elevate and push his business down the road. And he was missing one very, very important factor that frankly just absolutely destroyed any possibility of him having any success whatsoever online, or at least in Google Maps. And that is, he's using a service area listing. Okay, so let's talk about what a service area listing is, really what Google Business Profile is just in general. So Google Business Profile, if you're not familiar with GBP, it was formerly Google My Business, and a whole variety of other names, including way back when I first started doing SEO, Google Places. And what it is to all of us is Google Maps, right? It's all of the listings that you see in Google Maps. So if you're looking to go out on a Friday night and you go Google restaurants near me or Italian restaurants in my city or some neighboring city, it's those Google profiles that are going to show up. And one of the first things that you really need to understand about Google Business is that it's like a radio tower. Okay, so we drop that pin, and we all know the little red pin with the black dot in the center, but we drop that pin and it acts like a radio tower. And early on, when we're doing local search engine optimization, that radio tower doesn't have a lot of power, right? And we power it up through a variety of techniques. We power it up through citations, we power it up through posts, we power it up through reviews. And I'm going to talk more about how all of these things impact local rankings, and frankly, the things that you should be worried about, the things that you shouldn't be worried about. But for right now, the basic idea that I want you to understand is that you have this radio tower, and initially that radio signal is not going to be very strong, but over time you can strengthen it, and the reach of that radio tower will grow and expand and become greater and greater. And as that reach happens, what that means is that you're just getting more exposed to potential customers who are typing in things into Google like plumbers near me, HVAC companies near me, AC repair near me, right? The big commercial keywords that people are going to type in, frankly, when they're having an emergency, they need to get their air conditioner fixed, they are looking for a repiping job, whatever it is, they're far enough along in that buying cycle that they're looking for a solution, and they're looking for it now. And that's why Google Business Profile and showing up for those various keyword searches has always been incredibly powerful, always will. And we all sort of know that, unless you've grown up under a rock for the last 20 years, we all know that we go to Google, we type in what we're looking for. Sometimes we'll see an ad that catches our attention and we might click through to that ad. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to scroll below the ads and we're going to look at who's showing up first. And because Google has been so big on serving up user intent, meaning when I type something in, they give me the best results for that keyword term, we've learned to trust Google over time, and we've learned to trust those top organic positions. And when we're talking about home services businesses, probably 90+% of all of those search terms that are getting put into Google that are very commercial keywords that have high intent for your business, they're going to pull up the Google Maps on the first page of Google. And that's that 3-pack. It used to be a 7-pack way back in the day. But that 3-pack, I always say, when it comes to SEO, there can be only 3, right? A little ripoff from the Highlander, there can be only 1. Anyway, there can be only 3 in that 3-pack. Now, we have seen some recent changes, and I don't think I'll get so much into this, but we've seen some recent changes where Google has started to shift that, and we're now seeing organic placement able to take over the maps, and that's happening now in some cases. And so there's always a really, really big play here for organic SEO. And if you're already a master of the Google Business Profile and Maps marketing, then you can skip forward to that future episode when we record about what's working well in the organic search. But most of those searches that people conduct online when they're looking for your business are going to pull up that Google Maps, and that Google Map is usually going to be much higher than anything else like Yelp or Home Advisor or the Better Business Bureau, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the problem with a service area listing. There's no radio tower. I don't know how else to say that, but that's just the reality of it, is that we have seen for years now that a service area listing, and just so you understand what a service area listing is it's basically saying, I don't have a physical address. So when you go claim your Google business profile, if you don't have a physical address, you can just say, I don't have a physical address. I provide services in this area or in these particular cities or these particular counties. And you can still claim your Google business profile. And that's still a really, really important thing to do because, frankly, your brand online exists on Google. Okay. And if you're not on Google and you don't have a Google business profile, you can't get reviews. People want to read those reviews, frankly. There's just so much there that can be taken advantage of in having a Google business profile. It's also free. And frankly, if you're not taking advantage of this, you should be. Okay, that's really just it. You just should be because this thing really can be a significant game changer for your business. Even if you're not going to go out and invest in search engine optimization, let's say, or local search and trying to show up in those top organic placements, you still need a Google business profile to get on Google's local services ads. And if you're not familiar with Google's local services ads, that is Google's pay-per-call system. There's so many reasons why pay-per-call is always going to be better than pay-per-lead because they're picking up the phone and calling you. But without a Google business profile, I can't even get set up on Google's local services ads. And without a Google business profile, I'm not going to be able to ever really start showing up in my local area. And without a physical address to be able to tie that Google business profile to, my radio tower never really sticks out there. And so I'm really taking a gamble then at being able to show up consistently in those localized search results that are going to drive calls from my neighbors, essentially, right? From the people that are within that service area. And so in this particular HVAC contractor's situation, he's been trying to rank for years, but because he never established that radio tower as a first priority, his results have been really, really limited. And he's like, sometimes I'll get calls, sometimes I won't. It's inconsistent. And, my SEO company keeps telling me it's this or that, or we're building links, or we're creating content, we're doing all these things, but we're just not really seeing consistent call flow. And I'm here to tell you that all things being equal, the number one reason that's not happening is because you really just can't rank a service area listing with any predictability or assurance. So let's talk about the difference between pay-per-lead and pay-per-call. If you've been in the home services space for a while, you probably know who Home Advisor is or Angie. There's a variety of what I call pay-per-lead companies out there. And here's the problem with pay-per-lead, first and foremost, okay? They attract price shoppers, whereas pay-per-call tends to attract service shoppers. So I'm going to just do a comparison now between, say, Home Advisor and Google's local services ads, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with where local services ads came from, it really is the product, or the service rather, that Google came up with to compete directly with Home Advisor. Because Home Advisor was spending, it still does for that matter, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on ads, maybe even millions. I'm not entirely sure, frankly. It's not like they share that information publicly. But the fact is that Home Advisor was using Google and all of these other sources to generate leads and then sell them to companies. So if you've ever gone to Home Advisor as a consumer on your own, or you're just familiar with it because you're a home service contractor, what you know is that it's attracting people in with the allure of get 3 to 5 bids for your next project through vetted contractors. And so challenge with that, of course, is that if you work on a bid process, and you probably already know this, that if I have 3 or 4 or 5 different companies that are bidding out a project, it ends up being a race to the bottom. Conversely, when I go out to Google and I type in HVAC contractor near me, and we're not going to talk about organic placement at all right now, because frankly, especially if you're just starting out, Google's local services ads, in my humble opinion, is one of the first things that you really need to be on as a business. And I hate to say that because we don't make any money selling Google's local services ads, but the fact of the matter is that it really does work, and it works pretty well for the overwhelming majority of our clients that we have on Google's local services ads. But the difference between Home Advisor and that pay-per-lead versus Google's local services ads is that first and foremost, those people have intent. And they are service shoppers rather than price shoppers. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that when they're looking to go out and replace an air conditioning system, rather than just say, hey, I want to go find the lowest cost provider on Home Advisor or one of these other sites like Angie, where I know I'm going to submit my information and just get flooded by phone calls because they're only selling that lead 3 times, right? Yeah, not right. It's it gets sold and resold and pushed out there, and pretty soon what ends up happening is that you're trying to follow up on that lead and you can't even contact most of them, frankly, because they just get totally overwhelmed by the number of contractors that are calling them. Conversely, though, if I come over onto the Google side, they're searching for an air conditioning contractor. Now, if they're going through a bid process like you would, say, with a new system install or a retro, then in that case, they may still talk to another contractor or two, right? But what they're doing and how they're searching really makes a significant difference. And the way that they're searching is they're going out and typing in near me, right? I'm looking for someone who's local, who's established. And we've learned with Google Business Profile or with Google, Google My Business, that those reviews really, really matter. Okay. And that's what people are looking for. Now, when they make that call, okay, and this is the most important thing, is that when they make that call comes directly to you. So rather than them going on to Google's local services ads and submitting a form and then waiting for a dozen contractors to landslide them, they're going out and they're saying, I want to talk to this contractor. So they've already gone through the selection process. They've already read through your reviews. They already know that you're showing up at the top of Google in Google Guaranteed. And in case I haven't made that connection already, Google Local Services Ads is AKA Google Guaranteed. So that's, the first top spots that you see when you're looking for an HVAC contractor or a plumber or a modeler in your local market. But they are just infinitely better leads, number one, because they're picking up the phone and calling you. Okay. You're not having to chase them. And that's where most contractors that I talk to absolutely hate Home Advisor, Angie's, and most of these lead generation companies out there in the home services space, because most of them are not equipped to go chase down freaking leads, frankly. They're just not. You have a receptionist, she answers the phone, he or she, right? Maybe you have several people who are answering the phones, but you're set up to handle inbound. And if I all of a sudden start throwing 20 leads, 30, 40 leads a month that now you've got to put on some sort of cadence to follow up with, the quality of the leads just tend to be a lot worse. I keep pointing out Home Advisor because they're the biggest and the baddest and probably the most hated. But the reality is that all of them suck. And all of them rely on the same basic idea that we're going to generate a lead and then we're going to sell that lead to as many people as possible. And that's what creates that price shopper mentality and frankly, a race to the bottom when it comes to your margins versus Google Guaranteed, which specifically has been put in place to compete with Home Advisor, to compete with Angie. Those are exclusive leads. And that difference between non-exclusive and exclusive is really what's going to make or break your business and your bank account. I'm going to show you how to optimize your Google Business Profile as a home service contractor. So if you're someone who needs to optimize their Google Business Profile, this is how you're going to do it. So number one, first of all, get on Google, okay? business.google.com or google.com/business is going to give you the ability to go out and create your own Google Business Profile and get established on Google. Now, we talked about the radio tower, right? And I'm going to throw in a little caveat here because that radio tower, that Google Business Profile pin, especially if you're a home service contractor, okay, there are industries that are less competitive, less abused, that you can pretty much just register any business from your home. But for the trades, okay, for electricians, for plumbers, for HVAC companies, for roofers, any of them, you're really not going to be able to register anything but a local service area listing from your home address. So you're going to need a commercial address. How do I get a commercial address? I mean, do I go spend $5,000 a month for an actual space? No, you don't have to. We have a solution that we've come up with through a company called Regus. So if you're not familiar with Regus, they are probably one of the largest virtual office co-working type locations out there. And to dive even further into this, you really can't register your business at a co-working space, or Google is going to make you go through a video verification, which basically is like, prove to us that you actually work here, right? Is there a sign on the door? Do you have people in the office? Do you have something showing on your licensing as an example that you work here? And so Regus is one company that I'm aware of who has created a solution around that. just hit me up. Frankly, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction on that. But to be clear and to be safe, you need to have a commercial address. And that's number one when it comes to getting on Google Business Profile. And again, without that, you're just not going to be able to establish that radio tower. Your reach is going to be intermittent. It's like AM versus FM, right? It's just sort of shit. So anyway, after you've done that then, and you've actually got your Google Business Profile registered, or you have that commercial address, you're ready to go set it up. The second absolute most important thing you need to do is set up your categories correctly. And what's cool about Google Business Profile is that they make it really, really easy. Okay. And it's not, when we're talking about categories, we're not talking about the services that you provide. We're talking about who you are or the type of company that you are. So let's say, as an example, that you are a plumbing company that does heating and air conditioning and electrical. That's pretty typical, and we see that out there. Well, that's going to basically be at least 3 separate categories on Google Business Profile, right? Plumber, HVAC contractor, electrician. So the question that you have to ask yourself when it comes to making sure that you're properly categorized is, which types of calls do you want more of? Am I mostly a plumbing shop? Do I have more plumbing trucks on the road? Am I mostly an electrical shop? And do we have more electrical jobs that we're interested in doing? Because whichever category you choose first is telling Google, this is what's most important to us. And these other categories are less important the further we go down the line. I'm not sure how many you can have. Google's changed that over the years. At one point, it was like 8 or 10 or something. Maybe now it's 5 or 6. But really, when we're optimizing for a category, it's choose the thing that we are first and foremost, that we want the most calls from. And then our second category is going to be second most important to us. Third category, third most important to us. And having that category set up properly is going to make quite a bit of difference. And we've seen in really competitive markets, when we're trying to rank an HVAC contractor or a plumber, where let's say we're trying to rank a plumber HVAC contractor, that, you know, someone that does both. If we put HVAC contractor as the first category, we're going to rank better for air conditioning and heating related keywords. If we use plumber as the first category, we're going to rank better for plumbing keywords. And this is a little ninja trick. You didn't hear this on this podcast, but one thing that we've also had some success with is dropping a second pin at the same location. And my SEO counterparts out there would tell you all day long that you can't do this. And my experience with Google is there's what Google says, and then what Google actually allows and favors. And the fact of the matter is that we have done video verifications where we have created 2 separate listings for a plumbing and HVAC company, where plumber was a category of one listing, HVAC contractor was a category of that second listing, and we were able to rank them both with having that primary category as the main category on each listing as what we were trying to drive leads for that listing. So that's a little ninja hack, frankly, and not for the faint of heart, but it does work. If you're a home service contractor looking to grow your business, go ahead and sign up for the Job Calls On-Call newsletter. We're going to be covering everything under the sun when it comes to home service marketing, including SEO, Google's local services ads, Google ads. We'll delve into social media. Hiring is a big problem for many of you out there that we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about as well. And then really just all things growth when it comes to the home services marketplace. So you can sign up at the link below or go to oncall.jobcalls.com to sign up today. So after you've set up your Google Business Profile, you've selected the right category, probably the next important thing that you really want to do is optimize that profile. This is going to be getting your logo out there, taking pictures of your jobs, pictures of your trucks. Okay, you want this thing to be representative of your brand, frankly. So when you're setting that up, and if you haven't taken the time to go out and get all of your text together in your trucks and get a picture of the whole team, do it. Put that out on a Google Business Profile, because it starts to bring some substantiation to who you are. And again, like it or not, when it comes to your brand online, Google owns it. If you have a website, if you have a Google Business Profile, even if you don't, people are going to search for your company on Google when they're introduced to you. So that's why it's so vital, frankly, for you to go out and claim that Google business profile in the first place and to have a legitimate website that talks about who you are and what you do and where you do it and all those fun things. Once you've got that Google business profile set up, you've got the categories set up correctly, you've got this thing really optimized and looking good. And the cool thing about Google business profile is there's a little like indicator on it that's a circle, and it will show you how well your business profile is optimized. And you want that sucker to be all the way into the green. Okay. So that's another little trick is that, when in doubt, just optimize the Google business profile, put in all the things, and watch that little spin wheel go over to green. And when it's green, you're doing pretty dang well. Okay. So that's just a little indicator. But the next big thing where we see a lot of movement and results for our clients is in optimizing the services that they provide. So you obviously want to have your services listed on your website where people are going to go to. What a lot of people don't realize is that those services can also be on your Google business profile and should be on Google business profile because it's basically telling Google without them even having to go to your website what you do. And actually, when you set up the category, say plumber, HVAC contractor, on your Google business profile, it's going to go through and create a bunch of services based on that category that Google thinks you probably do as an HVAC contractor or as a plumber, as an example. So it will put in stuff for an HVAC contractor like air conditioning repair, air conditioning installation, air conditioning maintenance, duct cleaning, right? Different things along these lines. And so the onus is then on you, frankly, to go through and really map out in Google Business Profile all of the services that you provide and really leave no stone unturned when it comes to this. I mean, if there's specialized services that you do or products that you offer, Google also has a product section. So if you sell parts, as an example, or if you're a plumber and you do water heater installations, I would absolutely recommend that you put all of the water heaters that you actually install and work on in those products. And even more beyond that, I would put what you charge for them. And I'll catch some flack from that because frankly, most HVAC contractors, plumbers that I work with, the last thing that they want to do is talk about their pricing. And I'm going to tell you, that's a terrible strategy. Think about it. When was the last time you went to somebody's website and they've got some sort of product or service offering that you think that you might like to, be involved with, and there's no freaking pricing tab? You can't actually tell in advance what it's going to cost you to get engaged. And worse, there's just a form where they ask for your contact information and then they give you the pricing. How do we do that? Well, okay, so we can do ranges with our products on Google Business Profile. So we can say, hey, these are going to cost between here and here, depending on other things. And we do the same thing on the website, frankly. And having that level of transparency, I'm going deep here, by the way, guys. Having that level of transparency is going to really set you apart from your competitors. Also, when we're talking about optimizing services on Google Business Profile, you want to detail those out. So it's one thing to say, we do the service AC repair. It's another thing to say, we do air conditioning repair in Las Vegas, Nevada. What a typical air conditioning repair call is, technician comes out, we do the diagnosis, we do this, and you basically detail out everything that's involved in that service, not unlike you would on your webpage. So treat Google Business Profile as if it's its own website with just far more limited inputs, but optimize the hell out of those services. If you have products that you sell, definitely get them on there. And then once you've gone through and done the services, you've put images on there, you have optimized any products, then really you've got a nice, well-established Google profile that's ready for some activity. Now, when it comes to activity, there's really two ways that I see this moving the needle when it comes to contractors, okay? When it comes to HVAC contractors, plumbing contractors, and specifically when it comes to showing up and ranking well in Google Maps. Number one, if I can impart on you one thing as a home service contractor that you need to do to be successful online, it's get reviews. Get reviews after every single job. Get reviews, get reviews, get reviews. Why? Well, that's that social proof that's baked into the whole system. Remember how I was talking about the difference between price shoppers and service shoppers earlier? Well, how do you know people are service shoppers? Because they're going through and they're reading the reviews of the companies that they want to work with long before they ever pick up the phone and call. So by the time somebody picks up the phone and calls you, if you've got solid reviews, that's why HVAC companies, frankly, for service calls and plumbing companies for service calls, get such huge conversions out of Google Business Profile. I mean, we're talking 90+% in most cases, right? Almost at least 90% of calls for HVAC contractors, especially emergency service calls, are going to convert into a service call. Unless you're just not answering the phone or you've got a just ridiculous trip charge or something along these lines, if you can get out there when it's 103 degrees outside and someone's air conditioner is broken and you can get out there soon and pick up the phone, you're going to win that deal. And especially for my HVAC contractors out there, we know how vital that is because service drives sales. You're going to convert at least 15% of your calls into a retro or into a change out for that air conditioning unit because, they've got a 25-year-old unit and they've been legging along here for years. So I digress though a little bit. So coming back to Google Business Profile, when we're talking specifically about reviews, there's three things that you really need to be looking for. Number one is, of course, sentiment, right? Are we getting good reviews, mediocre reviews, or frankly, are we getting terrible reviews? And if we're getting terrible reviews, then there's something else going on in our business. But we should really be striving to get 5-star reviews all the time. So you've got the sentiment, and then after sentiment, you have the quantity of reviews. And this is also really important too, because we have noticed if you are using Google's local services ads, let's say that you're a contractor that has 70, 80, 100, 150 reviews, that's great, man. That's awesome. Fantastic. When you get over 200, you can watch the call volume from LSA increase substantially. And it's something that's baked into the LSA algorithm. I don't know if it is in the search algorithm, but the more reviews, the better. And when you really look at the bigger companies in your marketplace that are dominating search, you'll notice they've got thousands of reviews. It's not the only thing that matters when it comes to optimizing your Google Business Profile and showing up in Google Maps, but it is definitely important. And then the last thing, and this is where I think people also kind of go wrong, is velocity. Well, what does velocity mean? How frequently are we getting reviews? And we have seen this happen with a few clients recently where they weren't getting reviews. And so we go in and we create a system, frankly, an incentive program for employees to say, hey, if you go out and get a review from a customer, we'll give you $20. Or what one of my clients did was they actually created a whole, they gamified getting reviews and actually went to all of their staff and said, hey, we want you to go ask for reviews from your clients, your customers. And if you get the most amount of reviews in a 90-day period, the grand prize was something like $1,000. The second prize was $500. And then I think they had a third and a fourth prize or something. This was a staff of about 20 people. And guess what happened? They started incentivizing their employees to get reviews, and the reviews shot through the roof. Okay. And what happens with Google's algorithm and Google Maps is they see a company that's getting a review a month, maybe a couple reviews a month, all of a sudden going to get 30, 40, 50 reviews in a month and doing that over a period of 90 days. And that radio tower that I talked about, the reach of that radio tower went substantially. And all of a sudden they went from showing up in probably a 5-10 mile radius of their physical address to stretching out to covering more than 50 or 60 miles and showing up in those top 3 positions in maps for a really, really good distance. And then another thing happened. The competition ended. They went back to getting a review or 2 a month. And can you imagine what happened to their rankings? Shrunk right back down. So with all of that said, getting a whole bunch of reviews really quick will definitely move the needle and you'll see an influx of lead gen. But then as soon as that stops happening, and this is true across the board in so many ways with Google, consistency is key when it comes to Google, whether that's organic or Maps rankings, because when that consistency stops, the rankings go and they come back down and your lead flow comes back down. And you want to avoid this herky-jerky up-down kind of thing with reviews. And that's true of link building as well, which isn't really the topic of what we're talking about here, maybe another session. But the point is that we want to have consistency. And then really the last piece that I see so many contractors miss is using all of the posting features of Google Business Profile. So Google Business Profile allows me to create offers. It allows me to do updates. I can create events. The most successful home service contractors out there are the ones that utilize that system. And if you're wondering at all how frequently you should be posting on Google to stay relevant, I'm here to tell you it's 3. Okay, 3 times a week. Now, ideally, because everything is baked into Google's algorithm, you're not only posting on Google Business Profile 3 times a week about your services or special events or offers or things along these lines, right? You're also posting those same things to Instagram, to Facebook, to TikTok, and to all of, LinkedIn, all of your social media properties out there. Because when Google sees all of that kind of social stuff happening, it shows that you're engaging with your customers and it makes them want to send more customers to you. So to recap, we talked first and foremost and opened this up with, discussing a service area listing versus having an actual physical office location and why it's so important to have that physical pin or that radio tower at a commercial address. We also talked about the difference between service shopping and price shopping and how lead generation companies like HomeAdvisor and Angie really attract more of those race to the bottom, low margin jobs that frankly you have to chase down and sell. And it's just not frankly a great business model for most HVAC contractors and plumbers out there versus say Google's product, Google Guaranteed, or really it's called Google's Local Services Ads. And we also touched on the fact that in order to be able to get set up on Google's Local Services Ads, amongst other things, and as a first priority, we have to have a Google Business Profile. When it comes to optimizing that Google Business Profile, there's really just a handful of things. Number one, we want to make sure our category is on point, meaning that we're choosing that primary category, be it plumber, HVAC contractor, that represents what's most important for us in terms of leads. We've talked about optimizing your services and making sure that we have every single service that we provide, as well as details about that service on the actual GBP listing. We've talked about products. And if you have products that you sell, tankless water heaters, air conditioning units, heat pumps, those sorts of things, list them on your Google Business Profile. You want to make sure that you have nice branded images on your Google Business Profile. And another little trick that I didn't include before is that while you're out there posting, and that was another thing that we talked about, right, is using the posting functionality in Google Business Profile. But if we're going to be out here posting to our Google Business Profile 3 times a week anyway about services, offers, things along those lines, keep updating images as well. Google uses that geo data from those images to determine where you're doing jobs and so that they can send you more jobs. So keep posting images of your work out there onto Google Business Profile. And if you can, get your customers to do that in reviews as well. So reviews is going to be obviously the last big piece of that. We've seen reviews really become in Google's local search algorithm, in my opinion, okay, and this is just me, I think it's a good solid 25% of optimization with Google Business Profile. I really do. Because all things being equal, if you're a brand new contractor, I'm telling you, if you can just set up your GBP and start getting reviews, calls will flow, calls will follow, and free calls at that. And that's what's so great about Google's organic search is that, it's all free, right? Essentially. I mean, it's not that you don't have to pay to play when it comes to optimizing your websites and things along these lines and to be really, really competitive. But the fact of the matter is Google Business Profile is free and you can start today really optimizing this for your business. It is the prerequisite to be able to get onto Google's local services ads. And again, if you're a new contractor or, you've been word of mouth for the last 10 years and you're finally looking at, getting into the advertising game, what I tell new contractors all the time is get on Google Business Profile, set up your Google local services ads, start buying highly qualified, targeted inbound calls from Google that are going to be those service shoppers that frankly are going to convert at a really, really high percentage, especially for emergency services, because when you've got that call and the customer's right there, they've already vetted you through your reviews. They've already clicked on your Google listing, either in Google local services ads or Google Guaranteed, right? They're synonymous with one another, or through the maps on the front page of Google. Either way, they're pre-cooked, they're pre-qualified, they're ready to go. and those are going to close at the highest percentage. And frankly, plumbing, we see costs for per lead for plumbers go between $23 and $35 all day long, and that's even for water heater installations, water softener installations, repipes, those big jobs. And then, for HVAC contractors, you're going to spend a little bit more per lead, maybe even as much as $100. But when you consider that, again, service drive sales, and while your average ticket might be $750 as an HVAC contractor, which is up quite a bit over the last several years, frankly, you're still going to turn probably 15+% of those service calls into retros. They can be $6,000, $7,000, $10,000. And when you average all of that out, what we typically see with most of our HVAC clients is that their average customer value is $1,500 to $1,700. And so you can spend a little bit more to buy those leads from Google. And that for me is really the 1-2 punch that we tell everybody is before you start investing in SEO and stuff that's going to take a long time, or God forbid, Google ads or Facebook ads or anything else, do the easy stuff. Get set up on Google Business Profile, get set up on Google's local services ads, start buying hot pre-qualified leads from Google, and then you can start talking, frankly, with somebody like me, job calls, other home services marketing companies out there to really start to make you the king of the hill on Google when it comes to organic search. But right out of the gate, Google Business Profile is really where it's at, and it's going to be the center of everything. And so if you're not there, I encourage you to get set up here as soon as possible. So we've talked a lot about Google Business Profile optimization today, and if that's something that you want to learn more about, go ahead and sign up for our Google Business Profile optimization guide in the link below that's in the show notes. So thank you once again for listening to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm Adam Loveridge with Job Calls, and I look forward to the next time.